Milwaukee County 911 dispatch received a call from Cudahy Police Department regarding a severed leg at Warnemont Park. It was near the golf course and the pumping house. The leg was amputated from the around the hip down. The leg appeared to be that of an African American female.
This is freaking unsurreal. Like, I don't know how we were placed in this nightmare by this demon, okay? Demon, and I don't want to go there, but there's no other terminology for individuals that move like this. I don't know what the motive would have been. I don't know how sociopaths and psychopaths think, but this is very concerning for the Milwaukee community.
On April 2nd, 2024, a woman who went on a date went missing after being lured into a home basement in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The woman was 19-year-old Sade Robinson, whose body parts including right leg, left foot, torso, and one arm were found scattered throughout the city. The killer, who deliberately distributed her body parts to different parts of the community, had the investigators struggling to understand the reason behind this act until the detectives and the community worked together to find him. And the reason he killed this innocent woman is heartbreaking. This is the heartbreaking story of Sade Robinson.
You have to be a very demonic individual to do something like this.
Milwaukee is the most populous city in the U.S. state of Wisconsin and the county seat of Milwaukee County. Yet behind this friendly and welcoming city lies an ugly past. Many very bad killers have lived here, including the likes of Jeffrey Dahmer. In early 2024, Milwaukee had another very bad crime. This one showed how dangerous people now use phone apps and the internet to find people to hurt. Sade Robinson, born on May 10, 2004, was everything a parent could hope for in a daughter. At just 19, she was determined and independent, very different from her peers. She worked 2 full-time jobs, one as a rising manager at Pizza Shuttle, where she worked since 10th grade, and another at a prestigious Wisconsin club.
She was so independent, self-sufficient. She had her whole life ahead of her. She worked 2 jobs. She was dedicated. She was strong. 2 full-time jobs. The Pizza Shuttle. She was ranked up to manager. She started working there in the 10th grade, was ongoing, getting promoted, dollar raises every 6 months. So they wanted her to be manager. She worked at the Wisconsin club, part-time, the Wisconsin Country Club.
She was the definition of self-made. Her mother, Sheena Scarborough, beamed with pride as she watched her daughter excel at everything she did. From the moment she started at Pizza Shuttle in 10th grade, Sade's work ethic was obvious. Every 6 months brought another raise, and she was quickly climbing the ranks toward management. But one job wasn't enough for this ambitious young woman. She also secured a position at the Wisconsin Club, a prestigious establishment where she later helped her younger sister land her first job. Sade lived independently in her own apartment, drove her own car, and was just weeks away from receiving her Associate of Arts degree. She represented the bright future ahead of her, building a life for herself one step at a time. Her friends described her as a natural leader, someone who lifted others up while pursuing her own dreams. She was constantly giving back, her mother would later recall. She was there for the community, for the elders, the young people, her peers. She put out good energy. She helped others. But little did she know that a single decision would change everything. Everything changed that night when Sade agreed to meet 33-year-old Maxwell Anderson at the Twisted Fisherman. Surveillance cameras show the two meeting for their date, but little did she know that this would be her last date. The cameras captured the most mundane of scenes, a young woman walking into a restaurant, ignorant to the fact that she was walking into an intricately set trap. It all came down to what happened next.
Surveillance images from April 1st show Sade and Anderson on a date together at Twisted Fisherman. Investigators say the two went back to Anderson's home that night. The next day, Sade's car was torched.
Maxwell Anderson, son of a wealthy and successful local businessman, had allegedly planned every minute detail of what was to happen. According to court documents, he had converted his basement into what investigators would come to call a sex dungeon, complete with restraints, handcuffs, and a very curious 5-foot deep hole in the ground. This was just the beginning of a chilling series of events. Meanwhile, the basement looked normal from the outside, like any other in the neighborhood. It had small windows that were always covered up with dark curtains. The neighbors never thought this was strange. Back at the crime scene, something crucial was overlooked not until the police came later. Those covered windows made them very scared, as the worst part wasn't what you could see. It was what was hidden under the floor. Someone had spent a lot of time carefully breaking through the concrete floor, digging a perfect hole in the dirt below. The deep hole was dug very carefully. It was exactly 5 feet long and 6 feet deep. Someone planned this. It wasn't a mistake or random digging. The perfect size and shape of the hole showed it was made for something bad. This wasn't just someone fixing their house. When police found out everything later, the covered windows and the secret hole told them something very scary was happening here. When Sade Robinson didn't come home that April night, no one knew how bad things would turn out to be. What started as a normal missing person case became one of the scariest crimes Milwaukee had ever seen. Someone had set up a careful trap. At first, things happened just like they usually do when someone goes missing. Friends tried calling her. They sent messages that got no answers. They hoped she was just staying at a friend's house and forgot to tell anyone. However, the most shocking revelation was yet to come. Sade wasn't the kind of person who just disappeared and not talked to anyone. She had a job, went to college classes, and was very close to her family. When she didn't contact anyone, people knew something bad had happened. The truth, however, was even more horrifying than anyone imagined. As authorities began to piece together the last known whereabouts of Sade, security cameras at the Twisted Fisherman restaurant showed what seemed to be a typical first date. There, she was walking into the restaurant with no idea that every step was being recorded by cameras that would eventually become that all-important evidence. But what the cameras recorded really told only much less than half of the story. But then, a single clue brought the investigation into sharp focus. This was the discovery that Maxwell Anderson had deliberately switched off his cell phone from the time and date Sade went missing. What he did looked just like what other killers had done before. It made the police worried right away. This wasn't how a normal person acts on a date. This is how someone acts when they don't want anyone to find them or know what they're doing. Every hour, police looked at more clues to understand what happened that day. They watched videos from security cameras, talked to people who saw things, and checked computer records. As they found more clues, they saw this wasn't just a normal date. It was the start of something very scary. The videos from that night helped police find a terrible crime that even Milwaukee's best police officers weren't ready to see. As detectives pieced together the timeline, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. 8 unsealed search warrants showed that Anderson had not picked his victim at random. There was evidence of possible previous contact between him and Sade. This was revealed in surveillance footage from Victor's nightclub, where Anderson worked as a bartender. But then, a witness came forward with a story that stunned everyone and broke the case wide open. The witness told the police that weeks before the murder, Anderson had confided in him about his dark plans of dragging Sade into his home at gunpoint, shooting her, and then dismembering her body. He said that on several occasions in early March 2024. He saw 3 saws in Anderson's basement, along with plastic sheeting taped to the walls and floor, a calculating step for what was to occur.
A close friend of Anderson said that on a visit to Anderson's home last year, he noticed a large hole in the ground that was about 5 feet long by 6 foot deep. Anderson said he was working on an underground basement despite having a large basement in the home already. Neighbors say the basement in the home had small windows that were always covered so you could not see inside.
When police searched Anderson's house, they found something scary. The basement was just like the witness had told them. It had plastic sheets on the walls and floor, many saws and signs someone had been there recently. They also found a folder called Dating that had passwords for dating apps like Bumble, Hinge, OkCupid, and Tinder, with lots of notes about different women. What was even more shocking was that some women might have survived meeting Anderson. One woman said that after going on a date with him in February, she left feeling sure he had put something bad in her drink. This made police wonder how many other women might have similar stories to tell. That was just the beginning of a chilling series of events. Things got much worse when police went to arrest Maxwell Anderson at his home in West Milwaukee. What they found there was even more horrible than they had feared.
Adriana Taylor, she was reported missing just over 2 weeks ago. Her remains were discovered on Thanksgiving Day. News 5 investigator Tara Morgan has been digging into this case, and Tara, that warrant reveals some details, but there are still so many unanswered questions right now.
In the weeks after they arrested him, people began to understand just how awful his crimes were. The whole community was shocked by what happened next. Parts of Sade's body started being found all around Milwaukee.
Video surveillance recovered from the arson investigation led investigators to search the area of 3000 West Galena Street. On Friday, April 5th, investigators located human remains in the area. On Saturday, April 6th, MPD continued the search in the area and located additional human remains on the railroad tracks. Later in the evening on Saturday, April 6th, MPD returned to the area when Miss Robinson's family located her blanket. At this time, detectives located additional human remains. The identification of the human remains recovered by MPD are still pending.
First, they found her right leg. Then they found her left foot. Later, they found her chest and one arm. These body parts were spread all over the city. The police were shocked to find them in so many different places. They had trouble understanding why someone would do something so terrible. The arrest also brought about the discovery of some body parts left near places where children play.
Investigators say technology placed Robinson at Anderson's home near Oklahoma and 39th Street on Milwaukee's south side. The next day, her severed leg was found at Warnemont Park in Cudahy, and more human remains were later found scattered across the city. Gruesome discovery shocking many, including those in Anderson's neighborhood.
Even police officers who had worked for many years said they had never seen anything this awful. The horror got even bigger when another arm was found on a beach in Illinois weeks later.
On this beach, a passerby found Sade Robinson's remains.
Sade, Sheena, that's my baby.
Tests showed it was also Sade's arm. This wasn't just someone trying to hide evidence. The killer wanted to cause more fear and pain, even after killing Sade. The finding of Sade's remains brought much torture to her family and the community at large. Such agony from such a tragedy necessitated her mother, Sheena, into activism for her daughter's voice and a warrior for justice. "My baby did not deserve this," Sheena would tell reporters, her voice shaking in a mix of grief and anger. She hurt nobody. She was angelic. She put out good energy. She helped others. This is surreal. This is very concerning for the Milwaukee community.
This is surreal, but this is very concerning for the Milwaukee community, all individuals and parents in the community. You need to be concerned about your kids.
You're right.
Be concerned where they're at. Sade's voice will be heard.
It has been devastating for Sade's mother, Sheena. She lost weight, does not sleep, and suffers from other physical symptoms of trauma. "I can't describe it," she says, "but I don't know how I'm doing it. I'm walking in Sade's spirit and in her grace." The community came together to show their love. Many people set up a special tribute to Sade in front of Maxwell Anderson's house.
A call put out to the community to decorate her accused killer, Maxwell Anderson's home, in her favorite color.
We're here to support and love and turn this evil into light.
It's just tragic, and I can't even imagine the unbearable pain that her mom must be going through. So just coming out to show support and that our Milwaukee community loves our Milwaukee girls.
Being here to support, her mom can see that she's not alone. Everyone here is grieving with her.
A hurtful grief that even these decorations can't mask.
I have a lot of community daughters, and it could have been one of them. She was just happy to go on a date. Who expected it to end like this?
They called it a pink out and filled the yard with pink balloons, posters, flowers, and stuffed animals. This beautiful tribute was very different from the awful things that happened inside the house. Even Anderson's own father told Sade's family how sorry he was about what his son had done. In September 2024, the community found a lasting way to remember Sade. They painted a bright, beautiful picture of her on a wall near Pizza Shuttle, the Milwaukee restaurant where she had worked her way up to become a manager. This painting does more than just help people remember her. It reminds everyone every day about the wonderful person who died too young and the good things she did in her life.
We did everything together. We confided in each other. Sade was so special to me. And I know that a lot of you guys share that experience. Everyone who knew her knew how special she was.
Sade's family can't have her funeral yet because they're still waiting to find the rest of her body.
The search is still on for the rest of Sade Robinson's remains.
Fox 6's Bria Jones spoke with Robinson's father tonight, who's looking for his daughter ahead of her memorial service.
In each wave, Carlos Robinson gets a glimpse of hope.
Just hopeful that I'll find her. Her life flashes before me from an infant to now.
The soothing sounds of Lake Michigan can't calm his yearning to find the remaining body parts of his daughter, Sade Robinson.
I don't want to find her, but I know I have to find her. So it's an internal conflict.
People have raised money online through GoFundMe to help pay for the funeral costs. Everyone keeps asking, why would someone do something this terrible? The difference between Sade and Anderson shows two very different life stories. Sade worked hard to build a good future for herself, but Anderson, who was 33, kept failing. Even though he had many chances to do well, he had help from his family and lots of opportunities, but he couldn't keep jobs and often left them without explaining why. It all came down to what the police found when they looked at Anderson's computer and phone, online dating apps. They saw he kept very careful notes about everything. He wrote down details about all the women he met online, how they acted, which dating sites they used, and what they did. He watched them very closely and wrote down exactly what he liked. Someone also told police that Anderson planned his actions carefully. This shows that his dates weren't just random meetings. He was actually hunting for victims.
Records also claim another woman went on a date with Anderson in February. She says Anderson asked her back to his home. She believed he'd drink.
This case shows us the dangerous things that can hide behind dating apps and why people need to be careful. Sade's mother, Sheena Scarborough, now speaks up for her daughter and for all missing people. She tells parents and young people to be more careful about their safety and not to trust strangers too quickly.
And I'm speaking out for all of the other missing individuals, not just the Black and brown, but the missing individuals. There are young men, there are other individuals of all colors. We represent all missing individuals that have not been found.
Every parent and every person should worry about keeping their kids safe, Sheena says. I'm using my voice to speak for Sade, and I'm also speaking up for all missing people, not just Black and brown people, but missing people of every race. As Maxwell Anderson awaits trial, the shocks of his alleged evil doings travel far beyond his home shores of Milwaukee. What was once a tale of unspeakable horrors has transformed into something altogether different. A driving force for change, awareness, and action in the community.
Anderson has pleaded not guilty to homicide, mutilation, and arson charges. Documents show police spoke to the informant 2 weeks after Sade's death.
People remember Sade Robinson in many ways. Through the bright painting at Pizza Shuttle, the pink decorations that people placed at Anderson's house, and in how the community has come together to stop such terrible things from happening again. Her story has made people talk more about being safe when using dating apps and has pushed the companies that make these apps to think about how dangerous they can be. In Milwaukee, people think of Sade and feel sad about losing her, but they also remember to be more careful now because some parts of her body are still missing. Her family can't give her a proper funeral yet. But as time passes, more people learn from her story and want to make changes. Even though someone took Sade's life in such a cruel way, she continues to help others. Her story teaches people to be more careful, and the changes people make because of what happened to her might save other lives. Even as we wait for the trial of Maxwell Anderson and hope that justice will be served, what do you think about the circumstances surrounding Sade's death? Do you think dating apps are doing more harm than good in society? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section.